We'll send it over to you.
Now to our coverage of Lori Vallow Daybell's conspiracy to commit murder trial. The so-called doomsday mom is already convicted of killing her children in Idaho. Now she's on trial in Arizona for conspiring to kill her then husband. The prosecutor spent 7 days calling 19 witnesses, laying out her case that Vallow Daybell conspired with her brother to kill her former estranged husband, Charles Vallow, all so she could get his money and be with her new husband, Chad Daybell. On Wednesday, both the state and Vallow Daybell rested their case. So let's take a legal deep dive into this case. Joining me now is criminal defense attorney Hector Diaz. All right, Diaz, or Hector, you've been watching a lot of this, right, and I want to show our viewers to, kind of get a look back, show them some of her cross-examinations with witnesses, because they are pretty interesting, some of them a little tense. The first one even made jurors squirm. It was an exchange with witness Nancy Jo Hancock, who went on a date with Charles Vallow the night before he was killed. The state objected numerous times, saying that Vallow Daybell was harassing the witness. Listen.
Dates with married men?
I'm going
Not
to
naturally?
Argumentative. I'm going to also object under 611 for harassment.
So are you trying to tell me and this jury that you went on one date with my husband and he told you all the details of our lives?
I'm telling you the truth, and that's what I know.
So you spent your whole date getting to know each other, talking about me?
Don't flatter yourself. No, we did not spend the whole time talking about you.
All right, you just heard her say, don't flatter yourself. What did you think about that exchange?
I mean, just steal a word from, that the kids say, it was very cringe. Yeah.
Yeah.
That, when you're cross-examining somebody like that, you want to make especially a witness that might be a difficult witness, right?
Right.
You want to make your points, the points that support your defense, get that witness off quickly, right?
Okay.
Because they're not going to help you.
So give me an example. I mean, how would you handle that?
I think you look at that witness and maybe there may have been some kind of information that this individual has a temper, let's say, and that was some kind of information that was out there. You would ask questions that were relevant about that might support your defense, about whether they were talking about, Lori is really irrelevant.
Yeah.
And, and it came off very cringe. And so, you had to think that the jurors there were like, what are you doing?
Right, right.
And so, yeah, not good.
And it probably made her look bad,
Absolutely.
obviously.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's look at another tense moment here with Vallow Daybell's brother, Adam Cox. Cox said that he and Charles Vallow were planning an intervention to help Lori in July 2019, right when Charles was killed. Adam Cox testified on behalf of the prosecution, telling jurors that he believes his sister Lori was behind the murder of Charles Vallow. So listen to how Vallow Daybell cross-examined her brother, Adam, followed by the prosecutor.
Did you see with your eyes, or hear with your ears, or personally witness me conspire with my brother, Alex Cox, to murder my husband, Charles Vallow?
No.
Thank you. No more questions.
Yes.
When you were talking to your family after this happened, did you actually tell them that you believed that Lori and Alex had conspired to kill Charles?
Yes.
Why was that?
Because Lori had told people that Charles was no longer living, that some guy named Ned was inside of his body, that there was a zombie living inside of him. And Alex didn't respond to any of my text messages when I was supposed to be with him. And he was at that house that morning. Lori talking crazy about how she's a translated being. All these things all added up into that moment and that morning. Once I found out on Saturday that Charles was shot and killed, no doubt in my mind that they killed him.
All right, so here, I mean, listening to both sides there, it seemed like they technically had a good point, right? Because he didn't technically see the murder as to point back to Lori Vallow Daybell, but then yet with the prosecutor, I mean, he was saying, you know what, he put 2 and 2 together, so it looked like it. So what do you think of that?
So what Lori was trying to do is point out the obvious, and it doesn't really help her. When you think about it, this case is circumstantial. We're going to talk a little bit about closing arguments, and you're going to, no doubt the prosecutor's going to say it's adding and piecing together the evidence and what it looks like And that's really what this witness, what Adam Cox was trying to lay out is, when I started piecing it together and thinking about it in totality, there was no doubt that I did it. Or that they did it. And so in that situation, I think the state had a very impactful witness. This is her brother, who you'd expect in most situations is going to support his sister. And in this situation, it's testifying for the prosecution, and that had to be a witness that when the jury goes back and deliberates, they're going to talk about Adam Cox for sure.
Right, that right there just kind of shows which side he's on here. So looking back, not only at the cross-examination, but also Lori Vallow Daybell defending herself, being her own attorney. If you had to give a grade, what grade would you give her?
I wrote it down. I give her a C-.
C-? Why is that?
It was a D at first, but
wow.
And I'm grading her based on not being a lawyer, standing in court, holding her own, showing a bit of wittiness, trying to be sharp, and as a non-lawyer representing herself in a first-degree murder trial is difficult. It's really difficult, and she is. She's showing some semblance of organization now. But that also can work against her because, the allegation is that she conspired here and that, that she is savvy, smart, witty, that she can do this, right? And to some extent, this could cut against her and the jury could go back because they're getting a glimpse of her. They're getting to see her. They're getting to kind of get an insight into her personality. Is it possible that she could have done this?
Right.
That she could have actually engaged in this? Or is she just this kind of like victim here and didn't do anything? And she was, at the mercy of this ex-husband. So that could work against her. And I'm not going to be surprised if later when the jurors say something that they comment on that.
Okay, so let's look ahead. Speaking of which, Monday, closing arguments. Walk us through what will happen. Court starts at 10:30.
Right. So what's going to happen essentially is that they will go. The court will take the bench, reconvene, talk to the parties. They're going to ask Lori Daybell, and they're going to put her on the record and say, is it your intention to testify? I expect that she's going to say, I'm not going to testify.
Yeah. Which is what she had said on Wednesday, too, that she would not. But she technically could change her mind,
Absolutely. And then what's going to happen is the parties will then go into closing arguments. So the way it works is that the state goes first.
Yep.
Lori Daybell goes second. Presumably, Lori's going to make her own closing argument. That's going to be really interesting. It's going to be must-see TV.
Okay.
And then the state, because they have the burden of proof, makes the last closing argument, that kind of final push.
Okay.
And then after that, the judge comes back, reads them quickly, the final jury instructions, and the jury goes back and convenes.
So real quick, how long do you think they'll deliberate for?
If the jury gets this, let's say midday, somewhere around there, I'm not going to be surprised if we see a verdict later that afternoon or first thing in the morning.
So Monday or Tuesday, within
or
24 hours, we could see a verdict.
I do.
And what do you think that verdict will be?
I think it's going to be guilty. Yeah, I think it's going to be guilty.
All right. Thank you, Hector. We'll have more on some more national cases coming up. Rachel?
All right, thanks, guys.